Hello everyone, welcome to this video. I have been waiting to make this video since I uploaded the last one. This is my second video about books this year. If you want to check out the first one, I'll link it in the description below. This is going to be 10 more books that I've read in 2020. I have been reading so much. I'm actually on my 30th book. Last time we spoke, I was on my 11th, so I don't know. I just had a lot of time on my hands. Yeah, I'm just gonna take you through what I read during the summer, pretty much. So if you're interested, keep on watching. Last time I had the physical books with me, but I don't have them all because some of them were borrowed, and I returned them because I'm a great user of the library. I didn't use the library, I borrowed it from friends. So I'm just going to put a picture on screen of the book, and of course, as I mentioned in my last video, I'm going to be sharing my review and what I rated on Goodreads. The first book that I read is Disappearing Earth by Julia Phillips. This was recommended to me by two of my friends, Gabby and Miriam, and I actually borrowed my copy from Miriam. Shout out, ladies. Love you. But unfortunately, I was not very into this book. It's really hard to explain, but it basically follows individual women's stories. It's fiction, by the way. Individual women's stories following the disappearance of two young girls. Although I understood what the author was trying to do, the way that each individual woman's story just abruptly ended and like we never came back to her. And in the end, she tried to tie certain things together and get like certain people that were mentioned earlier together, but not all of them. And it was just like, it could have been done better. Okay. The ending was disappointing. I rated it 3 stars on Goodreads. The next book I also borrowed from Miriam. It's called What Dreams May Come by Richard Matheson. Hope I said that right. This was a very interesting and emotional read, I will say. It's basically about this man named Chris who died, but he didn't realize that he was dead, and basically he was walking in between realms of like life and the afterlife. His widow wife from his plane of existence, he wanted to take care of her and he couldn't. It's like a love story, but it's not. But love is a big theme in it, and it's interesting to think about the afterlife and soulmates and things like that, and it's very visual, and I definitely recommend. I rated this 4 stars on Goodreads. This next book deals with a very serious topic, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have heard of this book. It's called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. Although it was difficult to read because anything that has to do with this time period is very difficult to read and hear about, it's very informative. He's sharing his hands-on experience, which is something rare. We don't really hear about day to day about people's experience in the Holocaust. And to hear his story and how horribly he was treated, but the fact that he like came out of it so much stronger and with a new perspective on things, I think that is so admirable, and he's just such an interesting man. He's a psychologist, so he related his experience and the experience of people in life in general, and he explained what the meaning of life is. I'm not going to spoil it. I almost spoiled it. Whoops. He definitely changed the way that I view life in general and made me feel more optimistic about things. So this is definitely a perspective-changing book, and I recommend it. I rated this 5 stars on Goodreads, and if you know, I usually don't rate things 5 stars, but I felt like this really deserved it. The next book that I read was Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. Yes, we're back with Gillian, my Gone Girl. This book was one that Gabby has given me. Thank you, Gabby. It's been a while since I read it, so I don't really remember it very well, but I read my notes because usually after I read a book I'll write it in a journal and like write my thoughts, and from what I wrote I said that it made me uncomfortable. Now it's all coming back to me. Celine Dion. I remember it was about a family who had been murdered. One sister who survived, she testified against her brother when she was little, and now she's doubting maybe he didn't do it, and she's not so sure. And it jumps from the night of the murder and what was going on in everyone's situation in life, and it displayed basically what happened. Also, the young sister, she went and sought out, you know how people are like true crime fans? There was like a group for the murder of her family, and they like invited her to come hang out with them. Like, it was kind of weird. Super dark, well, it's called Dark Places, of course. It's also unsettling, but books like this, Jillian's not trying to make you comfortable. She's trying to send you on a ride, and on a roller coaster she did send me. So I definitely recommend, especially more than Sharp Objects. And I rated this 4 stars on Goodreads. Now we're getting to this part of the year that was one of the hardest for me. I remember distinctly reading this book in one day. That's how bad it was in my life. So, The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. This is another book that's on my poster. I mentioned it in my last video. So I got to scratch off another book, which is always fun. This is also a book, I think people read this in schools. It was also on like the banned book list, which is odd because I didn't see anything that wrong with it. So first of all, the narrator, he has certain patterns of speech and he repeats words a lot, and I just got so annoyed. I was like, okay, you can stop saying that. But it's kind of like how I say like and a lot, so I guess it's just how it was for him, or back in the day that's just what people would say to fill their sentences. I don't know, but it got annoying after a while. And he started off really witty with what he was saying, but then he got annoying and pessimistic, and I was like, okay, dude, like, deal with it. But that's very hypocritical of me to say. He was very relatable in terms of his misery and his loneliness, though. And it is an interesting adventure. I kind of felt like I was going on the adventure with him since I read it in such a short amount of time. I was like, yeah, we're going on the adventure together tonight. Like, let's link up in New York City tonight and do our thing. But it's definitely one of those classic books, and that's why it's on my poster, I suppose. And that's why people read it in school. So I do recommend it just to get a book under your belt that you can say, like, yeah, I read that too, like everyone else in the world. I rated that 3 stars on Goodreads because he just annoyed me to no end. The next 3 books are part of a series, but I'm going to treat them as individuals because there are different elements that made me like one over the other and then 2 over the other. That really didn't make sense. The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I know you're probably like, girl, we all read that in middle school / high school. We're over it. Well, listen up, because I'm the one person in the world who hadn't read the series. And I was not into it. I wasn't like Team Gail or Team PETA or anything. Like, that was not a part of my history. So as I was reading, I mean, the concept of the Hunger Games is dark, obviously, but I was like, okay, it's a young adult. How bad could it get? It got really dark, and it was murderous and just corruption. These are just buzzwords. These are just keywords in terms of this book. We all know the Hunger Games, so I'm not going to spend that much time on it, but I feel like without all the hype and everything, even just reading this book on its own, it's a pretty incredible concept to come up with. Super interesting, super dark, super scary. Nonetheless, I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. I also finished it in 2 days. I totally forgot I did that, but that's what I wrote down. So then I read Catching Fire, which is the sequel, obviously. I was very confused while reading it. Not gonna lie. It was very hard to picture the arena, and it was hard to picture just everything they were doing. And then when they were coming across, like, solving the mystery of what the heck is going on here in this arena, I was like, what are you talking about? It was much clearer in the movie because, of course, I watched the movie after I read the books. Hello, who wouldn't? Once I had the knowledge from the book and then I got the imagery from the movie to actually explain what the heck she was talking about, it occurred to me how good the story was and how intricate the details were. So, definitely my favorite one out of the 3. I rated it 4 stars on Goodreads. And here we come to Mockingjay. And I didn't really like how it ended, so 3 stars on Goodreads. The next book I read is actually part of a book club with Genevieve Padalecki, one of my favorite women in the world. The book is called 3 Women by Lisa Taddeo. It was something else. It was raw. It was honest. It was really good insight into the lives of regular everyday women, their sexuality, their needs and wants in life, and just their very own experience. I was able to identify in certain ways with each story. Definitely not like fully, like I do not have the same experiences as these women, but there's certain things about their stories that could resonate with me, and I feel like could resonate with any other woman. And that's basically what Genevieve talked about when she talked to Lisa about the book. And it's actually very interesting, and I got a lot of insight on where the author was coming from when writing this and how she was able to narrow down which women she was going to discuss in the book. And in a weird way, even though they went through some struggles and the struggle of women in general was highlighted a lot, it's definitely comforting to know that I'm not alone in some of my experiences, if that makes any sense. So so my pages of my notes for this video are all out of whack. So before I mentioned that I was doing soul searching at this time in my life, and I was like, how does this apply to Mockingjay? I was right to be confused because it had nothing to do with Mockingjay because my pages are all messed up. I was talking about this book, Three Women. So I said, this book came into my life at the right time as I began doing more soul searching and growing as an individual, moving on from certain relationships and stages in my life, which is true. And this book was one of the things that helped me through it. The structure threw me off just a little because I found myself forgetting whose storylines had what details in it. And that's pretty much just my fault because I'm really bad with names and I'm really bad with recalling short-term memory sometimes, so that's my bad right there. And also I didn't read it consecutively. I took some breaks, so I forgot things easily. But I rated it 3 stars on Goodreads. But the truth remains about Mockingjay. I didn't like the ending. Okay, that's all I have to say. The next book, one of my favorites of the year, When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. So I was well informed about how it feels to be on the patient's side of the situation and on the doctor's side because Paul was, and I say was because the book was actually published after he passed away. That was hard to know going into it. But he was a surgeon and he got diagnosed with cancer, so he went from dealing with patients day to day to being a patient himself and understanding where doctors are coming from when they give diagnoses and treatments and everything. And it was hard for him to deal with and come to terms with his situation and to be on the opposite side of things because he's so used to being the doctor. It was educational on both a spiritual and scientific level because I learned a lot about the life of doctors, both in and out of the ER. I learned about neurology, mortality, and those perspectives from doctor and patient, which are very insightful to see on both sides of the spectrum. Facing mortality and accepting death is a huge part of this book, and I don't know, something that I am still working on because I've had my experiences recently with it, but you know, it's kind of scary to me, but to be reading about it helps normalize that. And I know that death is a very natural thing, but I don't know, sometimes I avoid it, and reading about it just, you know, it kind of eases you into it a little, I guess, and helps you accept that life comes to an end. I know it's dark, but it's true. So I rated this 4 stars on Goodreads. Those are 10 more of the books that I read this year. Like I said, I'm already on my 30th, so we'll be getting another video up in here soon. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it before the end of the year, but I might combine the more books that I've been reading. I don't really know because I did read a lot more nonfiction and I changed it up a little bit. So yeah, I think I'm gonna try to do that whenever I get a chance because I really want to talk about these other books that I've been reading because a lot of the more recent ones I've just been blown away and I've been educated and I just feel like I need to share it with the world. But for now, that is all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Book suggestions are welcome. Let me know your opinions on my list if you'd like, and I'll see you in the next video.